Ian Woods, a U.S. political analyst based in London. Ian, who is in charge if the president is too sick to do his job?
Well, the 25th Amendment of the United States allows for this scenario that if a president is unwell for any reason or is about to undergo surgery, he can temporarily transfer powers to his vice president. So obviously, in this case, Mike Pence. Now, that has only happened on a few occasions. First of all, when Ronald Reagan was shot, he handed over to George Bush temporarily. And then when his son, George W. Bush, was president, he had 2 colonoscopy operations requiring him to temporarily transfer power to Vice President Dick Cheney. So if Donald Trump was to become sufficiently unwell over the next couple of weeks, that is what the US Constitution says would happen. Now, there are slight parallels here with what happened here in the UK a few months ago when Prime Minister Boris Johnson became ill. There's no constitutional requirement for him to have handed over to his deputy, but effectively Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, took over the mantle of many of his powers because Boris Johnson became very sick indeed and went into intensive care and hospital. We don't know whether that is the path that Donald Trump is going to follow, but clearly, as we've been hearing, he is a man who is 74, he is a man who is obese, and that puts him in a high-risk category. Certainly Boris Johnson thought that his weight was a factor in him becoming more and more ill.
Right, and if he develops symptoms and his condition gets worse, can the election be delayed? Is that constitutional, to delay the election in this case?
No, the election is set in stone. It's written, into the federal constitution that it has to happen on a particular date, the first Thursday in November. So therefore, that election will go ahead. Now, there are all sorts of questions arise as to if the worst was to happen and Donald Trump was to pass away. He's still clearly on the ballot, and hundreds of thousands of Americans have already voted. So it's difficult to see where that goes. That certainly is an unprecedented situation. As far as the campaign is concerned, clearly it has a major impact on how the campaign is going to be run. If he is in quarantine for the next 14 days, that means that he cannot take part in the second scheduled presidential debate because it's due to happen in 13 days' time. Could it be delayed by a few days? Possibly. And if he is asymptomatic and he is feeling fine, then technically it could happen. Is this an excuse for Joe Biden to say, well, there's no point having another debate? Because lots of his advisors were saying that after the terrible chaos of the first debate, it's probably a good idea if there aren't any second and third debates. But it also affects the way that Donald Trump is campaigning. Clearly, he has been putting much store in going out and meeting crowds and having large rallies. That's the way he thinks that a campaign can be won. But also, he wanted to change the subject. He didn't want to be talking about coronavirus. He wanted to be talking about law and order. He wanted to be talking about the economy. And he wanted to suggest, and has been suggesting, that COVID-19 is almost in the past, that it's fading away, that they're nearing the end of the situation. This puts it front and center back as the major issue of this campaign. Right,
and Trump loves seeing his supporters. He loves his rallies, now canceling already a couple of rallies in swing states. But how do you think his supporters will react to this? Will they feel in some way closer to him?
Well, I think there'll be a lot of sympathy for him. And again, let's go back to the parallel in the United Kingdom with Boris Johnson. A lot of people in the United Kingdom did not like Boris Johnson as the Prime Minister, but there was innate sympathy with somebody who was going through a situation where at one point, his life was in jeopardy. So it can attract even independents to President Trump in sympathizing. However, because he has been seen to be so cavalier about coronavirus over recent months, not just in the spread of the virus and how he handled that, but in his own personal decision to refuse to wear a mask on many occasions, and to even in the debates on Tuesday against Joe Biden, mocked Joe Biden's use of masks. And saying that it was unnecessary. Joe Biden said to him at a time, "You are foolish on this." Now, it has been proved to be the case. Now, a lot of Donald Trump's supporters still believe that the coronavirus is a hoax of some description, that it is an overreaction, but there have been casualties along the way that has made people sit up and think. Herman Cain, a former presidential candidate himself for the Republican Party and a friend of President Trump, caught coronavirus, we believe, in Oklahoma, where the president was holding a rally, and sadly he passed away. So there's some very serious implications for Donald Trump's health in this.
Ian Woods, I do appreciate that insight for us here at TRT World. He's a U.S. political analyst based in London.